Once again, Cody finds himself in a scenario where he's trying to trick the audience into believing that he's one thing. Since the inception of Sister Wives, one key phrase has been kicked around repeatedly by the wives and by Cody. That one phrase, strong, independent woman. Now, as Cody defines and talks about his belief system on the role of women in society and how the role of men in society and how we interact with one another, especially in this interview that he did on Mormonism Live, where he did a podcast interview with these two gentlemen. I'm not familiar with them intimately. I saw this one video and podcast session, and to be honest with you, they seem interesting, they seem intelligent, they seem inquisitive. So I'll probably check out some more of their videos. I'll put a link down below for the entire podcast interview with Cody Brown in the description down below. But when Cody was doing this interview, he took the position where he was trying to explain his belief system, where he comes from, his thoughts on women, men, and the role that they have within society. And for the most part, he tried to stay away from a lot of the issues with TLC. Now, I decided that I was going to do a live on this particular program based on the subject matter that I want to cover in this video, which is the concept of hypergamy, or the red pill excuse to shit on women, essentially. Now, before I get into it, I would simply ask that if you guys are getting anything from the content, you are mildly amused, you go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. If you're not yet subscribed to the channel, what are you doing? It's easy to do. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and you will be notified not only when I drop content just like this, but when I go live. Now, I plan on doing after party or after watch reactions of the Sister Wives program after the show airs. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that like, so you'll be notified when I go live and you can participate in those conversations. Now let's get it. Now, as I was talking about previously, the one topic that he brought up, which demonstrates his understanding of the manosphere and the influences of the manosphere in his mentality and his mindset, which in my opinion is in strong agreement with his belief system as far as supporting his status as a polygamist and how he is able to have multiple wives and why he should have multiple wives and why it benefits him and why it's completely natural for him to do so. I think that so he's already predisposed to this type of mindset or influence. So as we listen to a lot of what they have to say, I want to kind of tear it apart and discuss it. Now, before we get into it, I will want to point out that when he was talking about hypergamy and he brought that whole term and phrase up, he said it in such a way that he expected the host to be just as much of a misogynist, sexist pig as he was, which is funny to me. Like, this is that part where somebody says something extremely sexist, racist, homophobic, whatever the case may be, and they expect you to ride with them and be on their side. And they're almost surprised when you have no idea what they're talking about and what they're referring to. And then they're even more surprised when they find out that you have some disagreement with what they're saying and you give them pushback on the issue. So let's take a listen to what Cody Brown had to say about the term hypergamy and what he thinks it is.
Hypergamy.
We learned something tonight.
And I don't want to get into this because it's a very sexist word. But, you know, everybody makes jokes about men and their wandering eyes. You know, everybody makes a joke about that. And the strongest monogamists still go, "Ooh, hubba hubba," when a good looking woman goes by. There's still a biological nature, and it's all been proven out, as far as I can tell accurately, by modern modern evolutionary psychology.
Yeah, there's certainly truth to that. Yeah.
As long as this woman, as long as there's a woman out here who wants this married man is going to want polygamy.
Now, my favorite part of that whole thing was, a term, the hypergamy, it's kind of a sexist term and it's really against women, but let me use it anyway. So if you say something that's crazy towards women and derogatory towards women, and then you say, but I ascribe to those beliefs, then you recognize your own misogyny. You recognize your own sexism. It's hilarious to me. Like, this dude is such a joke. It's crazy. Oh, I'm going to say the most racist thing ever. But this is terrible and you shouldn't say this. But I totally believe it. In fact, not only do I believe it, I base my whole life on it. And I base all my experiences on this one belief system that I don't want to talk about or get too much into the terminology or phraseology of the words or the etymology of where the word comes from. I just want to push this idea out and just kind of glance over the whole fact that it basically tears down the whole half of the population, or more than half of the population. Oh, well. Another part of this whole thing that kind of kills me is the idea of nature. Because when you start dealing with a lot of these social groups and these types of people who are trying to explain very complex issues in the most simplistic terms, a lot of times they break it down to these very simple examples. Oh, well, guys are such that, a man's nature is to sow his seed in as many women as possible, whereas a woman's nature is to seek provision from a man and safety and security from a man. That's all women and all men, right? That is the stupidest shit I've ever heard. Because if you think about it, it takes away the very concept or notion that women have eyes in their head, that women have sexual attraction to people that they see. If that was not the case, then they wouldn't care what a movie star looked like, or half the people that Cody later used as examples of when he was 14, the girls like Scott Baio, or they like this person or that person who was a rock star and they wanted to be with that person. In Cody's mind, the only reason why these women want to be with these people, these famous rich people, is because they're famous and rich, not because they're good looking dudes. Now, I have a secret to tell Cody and guys of Cody's ilk. Women are sexually attracted to attractive people. Yes, a woman can look at, like, just you thinking that you sitting there at dinner with your wife or your girlfriend and the waitress comes by and she's stacked out, built like a brick shit house, and you say to yourself, man, what is going on back there? What is she working with? And then all of a sudden, the waiter or the busboy or whoever comes walking by, shoulders swinging, broad, solid, thick chest, big old arms, good looking in the face, and your wife, girlfriend, or lover is sitting there looking at him and saying, wow, what is he working with? I want to climb that tree, So you're not the only one. And that's the weakness of a lot of these guys. Also, the very nature of, well, when guys get married, they'll have these women and they'll want other women, and therefore they'll want to always be polygamous. So essentially what you're saying is guys are like kids because we want our cake and eat it too. If there's an opportunity where we can have more, we want more. Everybody is like that. Everybody is like that. Do you think there aren't women out there who are married and don't have affairs with guys? And one of the funniest things to me is that when people use the term hypergamy, a lot of times they try to cite these specific areas or zones where women are chasing after these very rich guys, the top 1% of guys. Guys got to be 6 feet tall, have 6 figures, 6-pack abs, etc., 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 in order for him to be attractive to any woman. And if you're not these things, then no woman is ever going to want to date you. A lot of these folks fail to realize that there are a lot of poor, short, fat guys walking around with a lot of ladies. It's just a matter of, it's not the fact that they're tall or they're rich or good looking or whatever the case may be. They may just have good personalities. And instead of you complaining about these people who are richer, taller, stronger, whatever the case may be, then you need to work on yourself. The biggest problem I have with a lot of the red pill advice, the manosphere advice, and the man dating advice section as it is now, is that they try to hold on to an idealized version of what they thought the past was, where you had Leave It to Beaver. According to them, everybody lived a Leave It to Beaver, white picket fence, 2.5 kids, 2 cars in the driveway lifestyle. The fact of the matter is, most people didn't live that type of lifestyle. Women have worked since the beginning of our existence. They worked hand in hand with us. The mankind, womankind, they've been worked almost like partners. They work together, and they've called these gatherings societies and communities, where people actually did things that were serving more of a need than just their sexual appetites. Believe it or not. And as far as safety and security, one of the things that cracked me up about most of these guys is that they always refer back to safety and security and provision. Like, one, safety and security, somebody's going to break in your house and kill the whole family, and you're the only one that can stop them, and that's why you have to have a wife who wants you to be the protector and the man, and that's why women want to be with guys, and they try to find the most, dominating guy in the world. That's not true, because in most cases, we don't live in that society. In first world nations, you don't have that kind of issue. When was the last time somebody broke in your house? When was the last time people a band of dudes showed up to your house and tried to kill you? If that's the case, you got to check how you living. There's something wrong with the way you're living, the way you're conducting your life. If you're afraid that a band of people going to break in your house and try to kill and take advantage of everybody in the house, then bruh, you got to look at your life and start reflecting on yourself. Because I'm telling you, that's not the case for most situations. So the idea that it's just all about safety and security, rubbish. The idea that, everything gets broken down into like the club. So the women get into the club for free. They go get drinks for free. Oh, it's so great. It's so wonderful to be a woman. And they get so much advantage just by being women. They can all get flown out to Dubai to be with the princess anytime they want. They could get on yachts and boats and they can do all this. That's a small percentage of women that can do all those things. Small percentage of women. It's also a small percentage of men who can do those things with those women. And those people tend to stick together. One of the things that I would express to most people who focus on this hypergamy is that in order for you to move or operate in this dating world, you have to accept the world for as it is, not what you wish it could be or how you thought it was. Even if the world was like Leave It to Beaver, it's not like that anymore. Women have opportunities. They have chances for them to be able to go out not only to protect themselves, but they can provide for themselves. So they're not looking to you for provision. And because they're not looking to you for provision, you have to step your game up. You have to become more of a person. You have to work on becoming more emotionally intelligent. You have to work on becoming more compassionate, more sensitive. You have to work on all these things. Your communication skills have to improve in order for you to be successful in the sexual marketplace. If you do not work on these things, you will not be successful. It's not an issue where all women are looking for, Brad Pitt lookalikes or young Denzel Washington lookalikes or whoever the hot boys are now. It's not that women are all looking for that because, one of my favorite things is they always cite these studies, quote unquote studies. And as Cody said, the anthropological evolutionary scientists and psychologists have pretty much supported everything I said. You mean the guys on YouTube? Because the guys on YouTube will tell you that the only way you get these women is if you look a certain way. But the truth of the matter is that if you focus on that and you focus on trying to have a bunch of things so that you can impress a bunch of women, so that you can get these women, then all you're doing is setting yourself up to get used. That's all you're doing. Money will get you the type of women that you want. The struggle will get you the type of women that you need. When I talk about the OG3 and I talk about Robin's situation, in this instance, Robin is the one who is what Cody would refer to as hypergamous. She entered into the family when Cody got a TV show. She entered into the family and Cody was providing for her family. She entered into the family and Cody was taking care of and protecting her and her children. So Robin is hypergamous. The other 3 wives, not hypergamous. I'm sorry. They're not hypergamous. He tries to protect Robin, and then by default he tries to protect Mary a little bit by just shading on Janelle because she left him and Christine because she left him. So he says that these women, they saw how I was treating Mary, and they decided they wanted to join into the family. The truth of the matter is, you were struggling with Mary. So no, Mary didn't marry you for hypergamy, because you were on the same level as she was, and both of you were broke. When you two got together, you actually rented a home or a room from Janelle in her house. So you guys were dating up. You were dating up when you started dating Janelle. So if anything, Cody was hypergamous. What about Christine? Christine didn't have a job. Christine didn't have a whole lot of money. Christine did work, but as she admitted, she was not a major bread earner. But hypergamy does not limit itself to the money that's brought into the family. It also talks about social status and class. When they refer to Christine as the princess, it's not because they're saying that she's spoiled and bratty and she acts a certain way. They call her the princess because essentially Christine is, as they describe it, royalty within their church within their church culture. Her grandfather started the religion for which Cody is a part of. So yes, he married Christine out of his hypergamous nature because he wanted to elevate his status within the church. He wanted to elevate his social status. So in that instance, Cody is hypergamous, not Christine. However, the sexist way that a lot of the manosphere people use it, they try to describe all women as being hypergamous and men being the providers. He's the provider, even though he's providing with their stuff. He's the provider. He's taking their money and using their money to provide for his wife and his lifestyle, but they're the hypergamous ones. It's ridiculous. And one of the funnier things to me is even when he talks about his breakup with Mary, he talked about his breakup with Mary.
Hypergamy.
We learned something tonight.
You emotionally have left.
When he talks about his breakup with Mary, he talks about hypergamy. Let's take a listen to what he has to say during the season 16 tell-all where he talks about the catfishing incident.
You emotionally have left and abandoned them in some ways, right?
Well, abandoned, please.
Well,
I take the word back because
okay.
I take offense to that word of abandonment. When Mary had an affair, she was leaving my ass because she was like, I'm done with this. I am done with you. I am done. She made it clear to everybody that she was getting out of there.
And this is him talking about Mary leaving him. And one of the things that he had talked about during this podcast, again, I encourage everybody to go check it out. One of the things he talked about vehemently during his podcast was the idea that instead of everybody blaming somebody else for the problems that happened, and then instead of everybody taking into account what they did wrong, they need to just accept that things didn't work out and just get past it. The problem with that mentality is that you don't learn anything from your experiences. That just puts you in a position where you go through a bunch of shit, but you don't learn anything from the shit that you've been through. And if you do that, you're only handicapping yourself and presenting yourself from growing and developing and evolving into a more proper lover, spouse, husband, father, etc., friend. You don't have that opportunity. When he looks at his situation with Mary, all he sees is that she left him and she was trying to cheat on him and she was mistreating him and what she did wrong. What he fails to recognize is the reason why she was doing it. She was doing and I'm not justifying cheating at all, but you look at the reason as to why she felt like she needed to do that. These women have consistently complained about feeling insecure in their relationship, not feeling loved, and yes, feeling abandoned by him. So if they feel like they can't trust this situation, they feel like they can't trust him, they feel like he's no longer around for them emotionally, spiritually, physically, sexually, then they will seek other refuge. You can't expect people just to sit there and wait for you. His arrogance in this video, as well as through most of the time that he's been on the show, but especially in this podcast, is off the charts. Because in his mind, he expects these women just to sit around and wait for him. These are not, I mean, dude, I don't know who raised you, but these women are not responsible for your good time. You have to participate in these relationships with these women, and he failed to do so. And by him failing to do that, that opened up his relationships and made his relationship bonds and ties weak and vulnerable to other people coming into your relationship. Now, again, I'm not trying to sit here and justify affairs or you going outside your relationship, but at the same time, when you create these environments with your loved ones, you're creating an environment where she doesn't feel secure. She doesn't feel like you're there. She feels like you're taking her for granted. And what that does is it opens the door for other people to come into your relationship and take advantage of the situation. Let's listen to the second part of that same interview where he starts to talk about the hypergamy that Mary was going through, as he describes it, hypergamy.
We circled the wagons as a family to protect her when she realized that she'd been duped. She was deceived. She was leaving. She found something better. She was leaving me for a better, richer man. And because we did that, in her own mind, she doesn't even realize what happened. She sees herself as a victim, which is true, but that she had done nothing wrong. And she would have never even been the victim if she wouldn't have done something wrong.
And the crazy part is, one, he says that she never would have been the victim had she not done something wrong. What did she do wrong? She was, according to you and your mindset, she was being a woman, right? Because all women are supposed to be hypergamous. They're always supposed to be seeking provision and safety and security. And if they can find that provision or safety with someone else, or they can find increased provision or resources and safety and security with someone else, then it's by their nature they would pursue that. And this is part of the divergent nature of what they talk about. Cody always reflectively talks about loyalty and accountability. However, these ideas and these concepts would always have to be rooted in the idea that you are a sentient being, that you have reason, rationale, that you aren't just compelled to do things by nature, that you can do things by nurture and you can make decisions other than your primal urges or desires. So even with that being said, one, he expects her to be punished for her making a decision not to be with him. But he also expects her to be punished for her nature according to him. That's completely ridiculous. Also, he blames her desire to want to leave him with the idea that she was leaving him for somebody who was richer and better looking than him. The only reason why she would want to leave is because she found somebody with more money. neglecting to see the idea or the fact that the reason why she wanted to leave was because he was neglecting her. He wasn't taking care of that relationship. He wasn't a good steward of his relationship, and therefore he left the door open for another man to step in and take advantage of him. Now, there is a point where I hear people like him make these references, and like he said, you know, I don't want to talk about that secret stuff that I was talking about, and I want to just throw out words and give you the wink and a nod as to what I'm talking about and where I'm from. And people who are in the know what he's talking about. And that's one of the things that I think is very malignant as far as this particular conversation on the podcast, because he's speaking to a group of people, a small subset and a group of folks who believe what he believes and ascribe to the same belief system he has. And he'll use these little code words and these little phrases in order to be able to reach those folks. It really reminded me of this particular clip from a movie called Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Well, yeah, it's true. See, I belong to a certain secret society. I don't believe I gotta mention its name, you know. And these boys here, they trampled all over our venerated observances and rituals.
They trampled all over our venerated rituals. I belong to a secret society. I don't believe I gotta say the name. Like, you know what I mean? And that's what Cody is doing on this podcast. He's trying to reach the manosphere guys, the red pillars. This is who he's trying to reach. And he's been doing that for at least 2 or 3 seasons now that I've checked. He's been trying to reach out to these folks and try to establish himself as a red pill thought leader. And because let's be honest, like, I think they're starting to fall off now, and they're not as strong as they were, and they weren't, you know, the Andrew Tate guys, and a lot of these people started breaking, even Andrew Tate started breaking away from the red pill community. But before that, there was a lot of money and a lot of opportunities for people like Cody to go into these circles and have these conversations about how women were inferior and men were superior. Women need to be submissive. Men need to be more dominant. When I sit here and talk about the patriarchy and what women need to do, then what I'm referring to is the way things should be by nature, and hypergamy, and the nature of women and the nature of men and the natural order of things. This is all exceedingly juvenile, and it doesn't move the ball forward as far as understanding how to conduct and maintain relationships. If you're in a relationship as a man and you're looking at your wife as the enemy, because essentially if you're there using me for my resources, using me for provision, using me for my body, dynamic, my size or my strength, you're using me for these things to protect you, then you're using me. And we're not in a relationship together. And if anything, that relationship would be transactional at its core. And I don't want to be in a transactional relationship with anybody. I'm a weird bird in the sense that I've been to strip clubs and stuff, but as I mentioned during my live, I'm not a huge fan of strip clubs for that reason. I don't like going to strip clubs because I don't like paying people for their time and attention. I like people to want to come and see me, hang out with me because they want to see and hang out with me, not because I give them advantage. That's not a positive thing. What cracks me up with the whole situation, though, is if you're a guy and you think that by having a lot of money, you're going to get the women that you want, I would simply say, take a look around. Will Smith has a shit ton of money, and Jada Pinkett Smith is shitting on him. There's a lot of dudes who have a crap ton of money, and they're getting cheated on it. Like, the guy will be worth $200 billion or $1 billion. Tesla, Bezos, people getting, and then they'll be worth ridiculous money, and their wives are getting their back blown out by the pool boy. The guy making minimum wage is tearing their wife to pieces. Are they doing that because of hypergamy? Are they moving at the top of the mountain so they just, I'm trying to get one more? Or are they doing it because they have sexual desires and needs just like the men do, and the transactional form and fashion of their relationship isn't strong enough to hold them into that relationship? What's also funny to me is guys will sit there and talk about the transactional form of these relationships, but then complain when the women decided they want to upgrade. If you do business, because that's what it would be a business-like relationship. If you're doing business with somebody and somebody can get a better deal from somebody else, or they can make more profit from somebody else, they're going to do business with those people, irrespective of the agreements that you had, irrespective of what you had going on. And to be honest with you, as a business person, you should expect that. There is no loyalty in business. Oh, we've known each other for so long and she should be loyal to me. What loyal? She should be loyal to herself because she's loyal to her bottom line. She's loyal to the things that she's getting from you according to you. But none of you want that because that's not a healthy relationship. The problem is, in so many instances, you want to be able to go date who you want to date, screw who you want to screw, but then you want her to play by certain rules. You don't want to have rules imposed on you, but you want to impose rules on somebody else. And you want them to maintain those rules. Oh, when we when we argue, we fight, you can't say too much about me, you can't criticize me, you can't talk about me, you can't shit talk me, as Cody say. But I get to come on TV and shit talk you to anybody who will listen. I get to talk down about you to anybody who will listen. I get to question your parenting skills and your parenting abilities to anybody who will listen. But you don't get to talk about me and what I'm not doing to my kids or for my kids to anybody else. I deserve a cloak of forgiveness or whatever the hell he called it. Look, that's my take. I'm James. This has been My Take on Reality, and I'm out.